name UFO houses.
You like the
However,
JETSONS houses,
the bubbly
or whatever they're
pod-like
called.
architecture wasn't the only strange thing about these houses. A mere 2 years after construction,
Reapers, what is good? It's your boy Laser. You guys know the vibes. We're back with some more scary reaction videos. If you're still loving the scary content, so I continue to deliver that for you guys. In this video, we're reacting to scary Google Map locations they're trying to hide from you. Guys, there's so many creepy corners on Google Maps. We're about to dive straight into them. If you guys enjoy the scary content, these are more scaries like this in the future. It's simply just hit that like button, you subscribe, and turn notifications on. It takes less than a second. Let's dive straight into this video.
top 10 terrifying locations Google Maps tried to hide from you.
Google Maps is trying to kill us, bro.
At number 10, Sandy Island. Also known as the Phantom Island, this peculiar location was first discovered by the famous British explorer Captain James Cook in 1774. Now, what's crazy about Sandy Island is that it was documented on maps, globes, and even nautical charts for 238 years. But now if you go to Google Maps, you will see no such island. The reason being is that in 1979, it was quite literally undiscovered, as apparently no landmass existed there. But even so, it remained on Google Maps until 2012. This seemingly conflicting information made many wonder if there is something that we aren't being told about the strange island.
Did the water like
non-island, I suppose.
Go over it?
And so naturally, a conspiracy theory began, stating that this undiscovered island actually was there and that we are being lied to. Now, I'm not about to jump quite to that conclusion. However, I will admit that it isn't every day that something becomes undiscovered. So it does make sense to wonder if there is something going on behind the scenes.
I think
However,
the water just
I guess we will never know for sure. Next up at number 9, Blurred House. So I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure if this qualifies as terrifying in the usual sense. However, it is certainly mysterious, and so I couldn't help myself from adding it to today's list.
Is there a murder?
Located in Stockton-on-Tees, England, there is an inexplicable blurring of a random house that has perplexed neighbors, tourists, and even the residents themselves since 2009. Of course, when things like this happen, people like to make their own conclusions, and so rumors involving crime or aliens began spreading about the property. But in reality, the truth was much more unnerving, that no one could actually explain or figure out why it was banned for public viewing. In fact, according to the current resident, quote, "I've been in this house since 2000, but I have no idea why you can't see it." Which would mean at one point you could see it, and then 9 years later it was suddenly not suitable for the public to have access to. So
there had to be a murder.
Is there something spooky about this house that Google doesn't want us to know? Certainly seems that way. Coming in at number 8, Baker Lake. Up in a remote location of Nunavut, Canada, there is a seemingly innocuous place called Baker Lake that for some mysterious reason is not fully visible on Google Maps. In fact, if you do a quick search, there is actually a long black strip that covers a good chunk of the area. And as I'm sure you can imagine, it has garnered a terrifying conspiracy theory to explain why that is. The theory states that this black strip is actually covering extraterrestrial beacons that the government secretly brought down to Earth in 1972. The theory then goes on to explain that these top secret beacons exert powerful electromagnetic fields that disrupt Earth's natural energy grids, which in turn have altered the weather and have been used to focus the Earth's energy in undisclosed ways. Further, there are some out there who propose that because these alleged beacons are stolen space property, it has caused a massive war with aliens, hence the uprising in alleged UFO sightings. Now, in reality, we have no concrete evidence as to why this is blurred out, but whatever it is, it must be for a good reason. Next up at number 7, Jeannette Island. Located somewhere in the East Siberian Sea, this mysterious tiny island measures just 1.2 miles in length, and according to the powers that be, we are not supposed to know about it. First discovered in the late 19th century during the Jeannette expedition, this icy landmass and the ominous Google Maps blob that covers covers it have been the subject of numerous conspiracies ranging from the usual alien stuff to it being a top secret government base for secret or evil deals amongst world leaders. Now, one thing we do know about this place is that there have been some issues over the years about who the island legally belonged to, with the US and Russia often butting heads over ownership. This has, of course, lended its hand to the evil political military base narrative, but for all we know, the truth could be even more terrifying. Coming in at number 6, former 𝐍𝐶 UFO houses. When construction on these peculiar houses began in 1978, they were marketed to be vacation resorts for US military officers coming from their East Asian postings. But as you might have noticed, they have an extremely futuristic look to them, hence why they got the nickname UFO houses.
You like the JETSONS
However,
houses,
the bubbly, pod-like architecture wasn't the only strange thing about these houses. A mere 2 years after construction began, the project was abandoned and never finished due to several car accidents and a number of construction workers who took their own lives on the job. This, of course, caused a huge loss on the investment, and they were forced to end the project. The plan from there was to tear down all the buildings despite a major public pushback, and eventually in 2010 all the UFO houses were demolished. But of course, this still didn't answer the mystery on everyone's mind. What was behind all this tragedy, and why were they so hell-bent on destroying the buildings? Well, there are a few theories. Some believe that the site was the formal burial ground for Dutch soldiers and that the workers had been cursed during construction, while another theory claims that the tragedies were due to the bisecting of the Chinese dragon sculpture located near the resort gates. And of course, the shape of the buildings drew in conspiracy theorists who claim aliens were the reason for death and that they could have threatened the company to tear it down.
Just because they look like
considering
UFOs?
The buildings no longer exist, they could have very well been something they tried to keep from us. Coming in at number 5,
the design's interesting though.
Way back in the 1920s, the Red Army began searching for a discreet place to build a military complex for inventing, producing, and testing biological weapons. They wanted something small and far away from the Soviet borders so as not to draw attention. And eventually by 1948, such a place was found. Almost immediately, a top secret Soviet lab began testing agents such as smallpox, anthrax, and plague, among others. However, what they didn't see coming was that the island, once split between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, would begin to grow in size once the Aral Sea began drying up in the 1960s. Then fast forward to 1971, and a weaponized smallpox was accidentally released from the lab, infecting 10 people, 3 of whom lost their life. And by the 1990s, the secrecy of the lab got compromised. All island inhabitants were evacuated, leaving the base completely abandoned by 1991. However, in their haste to leave, many of the containers were not properly destroyed or sealed, and so over time these containers began to leak, contaminating the grounds for decades. Now, the good news is that by 2002, a lot of the sites were decontaminated, but many areas remain contaminated, and it's still one of the most feared and deadly places in the world.
I wonder why, bro. All the diseases and shit.
Underwater pyramids. Located in the Bahamas, this photo found in Google Maps has left many thinking that they discovered underwater pyramids. Now, I know, this is a full conspiracy theory, but I mean, what else do you expect to find when Google Maps has blurred out seemingly normal places across the globe? The main conspiracy surrounding these alleged underwater pyramids is that they are living proof of the long-lost city of Atlantis, or at the very least, proof of some ancient Aztec civilization. But of course, there are others out there who claim these underwater pyramids all have to do with aliens. The mysterious structure is estimated to measure between 3.5 to 11 miles across based on the photos, although no one knows for sure as you can't get to the structure to see for yourself. If it is in fact a pyramid and the size that many believe it to be, it would be the biggest pyramid ever built. But seeing as though no one can visit them, it might be a long while before we know if these pyramids prove any kind of extraterrestrial involvement on Earth. Coming in at number 3, 𝐻𝐻𝐾 Island. Once home to the Aleut people for over 2,500 years, 𝐻𝐻𝐾 Island has had no permanent population since 1832. In 1836, when the United States purchased Alaska, they gained control of the territory, and it's likely that this purchase had a lot to do with the declining population. However, that's not why it's blurred from the public view. Beginning in the 50s and up until the 70s, 𝐻𝐻𝐾 was used by the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission as a site for underground nuclear detonations, and during these 20 or so years, this island became known as the location of one of the largest underground tests ever conducted in US history. At the time, quite a bit of controversy followed what was going on at the island, mostly due to the fear that the tests could cause several environmental impacts and desolate the land, which frankly they were not wrong about. While not entirely confirmed, it is the general belief that the controversial nuclear past of this island is the reason behind the ominous blur, as it's not somewhere Google is quick to advertise as a place to visit. Coming in at number 2, GROM headquarters. If you have ever Googled Warsaw, Poland, you may or may not have come across a strange group of buildings that look like mysterious blobs compared to the rest of the city around it. As it turns out, this is no accident. Those buildings are GROM headquarters, which is essentially Poland's Special Forces building. Now, I'll be honest, there is not much you can find about these headquarters. All I can find out about this top secret group is that they rescued CIA agents from a mission gone wrong in Desert Storm back in 1991. And apparently, whatever else it is they are up to, they do not want you to know about, which I mean, I guess is kind of the point. So as much as I'm sure many of us would like to know what goes on in this super secret Polish spy headquarters, I'm afraid that information is highly classified and their exact location will continue to remain a secret from the public.
Interesting indeed, bro. Alright, number 1.
Spot 2207 Seymour Avenue. Once the home of the beyond evil Ariel Castro, there is no conspiracy that comes with why this house is blurred on Google Maps. Only a truly terrifying reality. The horrors in this house began in the mid-90s when Ariel was married to a woman named Grimilda Figueira. Ariel was extremely abusive towards his wife, but despite cracking her skull and causing an eventual terminal brain tumor from his actions, the domestic violence arrest did not result in an indictment. By the late 90s, things began to get even scarier for Grimilda, and so she moved out, took their 4 offspring, and filed for full custody. But again, no charges were pressed against him. However, his abusive backstory with his wife is not the reason for the infamous reason you can't see this house. It's because shortly after their divorce, between the years of 2002 to 2004, Ariel kidnapped 3 young women and held them captive in this house until 2013. His victims, Amanda Berry, Michelle Knight, and Gina DeJesus, were starved, beaten, and endured unspeakable psychological and physical acts at this monster's hands, until finally in 2013 when Amanda noticed a door was left unlocked and saw a neighbor walking down the street. Amanda screamed for help, and the neighbor ran to the house, broke through the door, allowing Amanda to make a valiant escape with her 6-year-old daughter. She promptly called 911, and authorities arrived in minutes, saving the other 2 victims. The case made international headlines, and Ariel Castro was rightfully sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years without possibility of parole. As part of the plea bargain, the house was actually demolished, but still the story was so evil that it remains blurred on Google Maps forever. Well, there you have it.
Damn, it's crazy. Well guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Guys, that people that were captured or kidnapped in the house, that is so fucking fucked up, dude, and creepy. But if you guys enjoy this scary content, you guys want more scaries like this in the future, you guys already know what to do, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!